to start off, we've invited several prominent personalities in the art scene. Kung hindi po kayo masyadong familiar sa kanilang mga pangalan, sila po ay gugabol. Tama ba yung term ko? Okay. So nagubugan yung mga pangalan nila. Ganun sila ka sikat in the scene. So pag uwi nyo, kaya mamaya pag may access na kayo to Wi-Fi, you can Google and read more about them. They're very prominent curators in the field of contemporary arts. So the first that I'd like to introduce to you is a very good friend of mine. Hunk na hunk siya. Yun. So, this is a very good friend of mine, and we've partnered with him in many activities of the museum. He's actually an independent museum, gallery, and conservation consultant, currently working with the Lopez Museum. So Lopez Museum is located at Ortigas City, tama? And he's also worked with few other private institutions in Manila and Singapore. He is an advocate of preventive conservation and has received training from various institutions such as the ICROM in Rome and Italy, Simeos PAFA in Bangkok and Thailand, and the Heritage Conservation Center in Singapore. So let us all welcome our first guest for this afternoon. A big round of applause for Mr. Ricky Francisco.
Ang contemporary art kasi natin ngayon ay may kinalaman syempre sa mga artist o yung mga manlilikha ng art. Pero para mo kayo ang mga artist, merong parang environment na bumubuhay sa kanila. Andito yung mga galleries kung saan nabebenta ang art. Andito yung artist-run spaces para sa mga artworks na halimbawa hindi kailangang ibenta pero kailangang ipahayag. Andito yung mga museum para doon sa mga artist na medyo kilala na at meron ng kumbaga importanteng sinasabi sa kanilang mga ginagawa. Andito yung archives, yung mga medyo matatanda ng artist na nakalipas na yung makikita niyo yung growth nila, paano sila umabot doon. Andito yung mga collectors na bumibili ng trabaho nila, curators na nagbubuo ng mga exhibit, critics na nagpupush para lalong gumaling yung mga artist. At andito yung halimbawa auction house kung saan nagiging milyon-milyon yung halaga ng ibang trabaho ng ibang artist. Ganyan. Art competitions kung saan nadidiscover yung mga new talent. So, tapos may mga iba pang mga events at saka ibang entities na nagko-contribute sa practice ng art. Okay. Sotheby's, ito yung gusto kong simulan. 2011, nung nabenta yung trabaho ni Ronald Ventura, dapat darating si Ruel na anyway, si Ronald Ventura nabenta niya isang painting niya ng 1.1 million US dollars. O dati pag sinabing artist, huwag ka mag-asawa ng artist, magugutom ka. Ngayon, medyo nag-iiba-iba na yung pananaw. At ito'y binenta sa, alam ko sa Hong Kong to nabenta eh. So hindi na local, kundi medyo regional na or even international yung participation natin. Ang art economist at iba pang mga international news na napansin yon dahil highest yun for Southeast Asia na contemporary art. Tapos nung panahon din na yon, ang Guggenheim nag-show ng mga Southeast Asian artists kasamang ilang Filipinos. Andito, nanalo rin si Rodel Tapaya noon 2011 to. Tapos recently naman sa Venice Biennale may si Mark Atienza, nirecognize yung trabaho at nabigyan din ng award. So, in terms of contemporary art, talagang nakaka-participate na tayo in the world stage. Meron din for some time, katulad nito, nagsara nga lang ito, pero for some time, may mga galleries na Southeast Asian na, hindi na Malaysian lang, hindi na Indonesian, pero Southeast Asian na yung scope, tulad itong Valentine Billy at itayo for a time ng isang gallery sa Manila. Tapos nagpa-participate tayo ng hindi na sa visual arts, kundi sa iba't ibang mga art forms. Yan, so sa Havana, even in Havana, tas Hong Kong, every year, milyon-milyong piso ng works ang nabibenta dito. Yan. So paano ba tayo umabot dito? Paano tayo umabot sa ganitong lucrative na art? Gusto kong simulan sa mga 16th century. 16th century pumasok dito yung yung art in the sense na European sense. Pumasok yung paggawa ng mga mapa, pag-imprenta, paggawa ng mga religious icons. Pero hindi naman nagsimula. So ito, sample ito ng mga gawain ng mga nakalipas na colonial period na kung saan na-introduce sa atin yung art forms ng ibang mga bansa. Architecture natin, largely influenced by Spanish influences. Pananamit, ganun din. Yan, ito medyo elegante pero French rendition to ng kasuotan ng mga Tagalog noong panahon na yun, mga 18th century. Yan. Tapos noong 1830s, 1840s, nag-start na tayo ng first academy for painting dito sa Pilipinas. It's among the first in Southeast Asia. So, ito si Damian Domingo, siya yung headmaster noong eskwelahan na yon. Sa loob lang ng wala pang 30 years since natayo yung school na yon, nakaproduce tayo ng Hidalgo at ng Luna. Yung si Luna ang nagkaroon ng isa sa 3 gold medals doon sa art competition doon sa Spain. At imagine nyo na nung panahon na yun, hindi nila tinitignan as kapantay nila yung Pilipino. Si Luna, binago nila yung pagtingin nila na, kaya rin pala ng mga Pilipino gumawa ng art na high level ng art. Gold medal level. So, kaya tayo proud sa kanya. So kay Luna, lumabas doon yung mga tulad ni Amorsolo na mas local na yung themes. Kasi dati, di ba, ang pinag-uusapan lang religion at saka mga grand narratives tulad ng mythology at classical, ngayon pumasok na yung nasa bukid ka, maganda, merong inaani. Noong 1928, pumasok si Edades to, right? The Builders. Kung saan hindi nakagandahan lang pinag-uusapan, kundi yung kalagayan ng lipunan. Ito yung trabaho ng lolo na Eileen, Gadgets, 1956, kung hindi ako nagkakamali, na makikita niyo yung panibagong style, panibagong pananaw na hindi lang puro ganda, kundi may sinasabi na sa social realities natin. Si Cesar Legaspi to. Nanalo to ng gold medal noong 1956. Tapos nandiyan din yung mga tulad nila Nena Sagil, female artists, na hindi lang gumagawa ng art dito, kundi pati sa Paris. Yan. At saka si David Medalla, 1960s, gumawa siya ng isang sculpture na gawa sa sabon, sa bula ng sabon, na every minute nagbabago. So imagine nyo, ang pananaw natin sa sculpture, isang solid na bagay na hanggat maaari, magtatagal ng hundreds of years. Pero ito, every second, every minute, nagbabago yung itsura. So nakagawa siya gano'n na nakapukaw ng atensyon ng mundo. Yan. Pero nagsimula tayo hindi sa wala. Nagsimula tayo sa sarili nating mga uri ng art forms. Mga katutubo natin, napakarami. More than 120 ethno-linguistic groups ang meron tayo. May kanya-kanyang paniniwala at may kanya-kanyang expression kung ano ang mahalaga, at makikita niyo yun sa kanilang mga ornamentation, sa kanilang hinahabi, sa kanilang religion, yung stuff ng religion. Pero nakakatawa even back then, kahit na largely uncolonized ang mga katutubo na iba, meron na rin colonial influence ng Americans, yung mga hindi na-colonized ng mga Spanish. Yan. So marami tayong iba't ibang pinaghuhugutan. At bawat grupo may sari-sariling standard kung ano ang maganda, kung ano ang mabuti, ano yung magaling. At yun, influensyahan din tayo ng iba't iba nga na influences. Hindi lang ng mga colonizers natin, kundi sa pag-participate natin sa mundo, na-realize natin ito pala yung maganda, ito pala yung in, ito pala yung tama or fun. So, lahat ito naka-influence sa mga trabaho ng mga artists natin ngayon. So, makikita niyo halimbawa, andito yung trabaho ni Ronald Ventura, tapos meron kang mga pop symbols dyan, Mickey Mouse, Bulol, halo-halo. So, ito kasi realities natin. So, ito siya, nagdo-drawing sa isang religious icon ng mga Ifugao at mga Ibaloy, ang Bulol, sinasamahin niya ng Jesus Christ halimbawa at saka ng iba pang symbols. So ganito yung art natin, iba-iba rin. Ito si Gaston Damag, Ifugao siya, ginagamit din niya yung symbol na yun, pero in a different way. Iba na yung sinasabi niya, ginagamit niya yung materials na yun, pero para sa ibang mga bagay, yung parang pagmumuni-muni niya sa kultura niya at saka kung paano siya nagpa-participate sa mundo. Ito yung, yung pang-ani ng bigas. Kasi sa kanila hindi ganito yung pag-ani ng bigas. Dahil napaka-sacred ng bigas sa kanila ganito. Bawat hibla ng bawat stem of rice, kailangan mong i-cut at a specific size para maging ganito. So ito, nakasuot sa daliri ito. So, sa kultura nila, pero ginamit niya bilang isang sculpture ng puso. Yan. Ito naman, puso din, pero ang ginamit niyang pampinta, dura. Kasi sa kultura nila, pagka meron kang bisita, papanguyain mo siya ng nganga. Sino sa inyo ang familiar sa nganga? So medyo familiar pa naman kayo, right? So ang effect nun, para kang nalalasing. Parang gano'n. Tapos mas madaling magkwentuhan. At dito, dura, ginawa niyang heart. Ito yung lusong, kung saan binabayo yung palay. Ginawa niyang parang yayoy kusama. Si Rodel naman, iba't ibang mga kwentong bayan, hindi lang ng Tagalog, kundi mga Ilocano, mga iba-ibang ethno-linguistic groups, pinagsasama-sama niya to talk about contemporary issues. So, samples lang ito ng mga trabaho niya. Ito yung sa creation, halimbawa, yung tungkol sa gera. Sino to? Familiar pa ba kayo sa kanya? Oh, si Bernardo Carpio. Pero bakit siya may Uncle Sam? So, yung ganito, ang contemporary art karaniwan, hindi lang siya ina-appreciate na maganda. Karaniwan, ang contemporary art may hinihingi sa'yo. Bakit siya nakasuot ng American top hat? Bakit blonde yung buhok niya? Bakit merong barko doon? Kung siya si Bernardo Carpio, ano yung pinapangako niya? Di ba sinasabi sa Katagalugan na pag nakalaya na si Bernardo Carpio, magkakaroon ng kapayapaan? Yung mga ganun. Bakit ganito? Gumagamit sila ng mga, ito yung diorama format. So, yung kanina, painting format, ito yung diorama format niya. So, iba-ibang materials din yung ginagamit. Ito, aswang, hinahabol yung lalaki. So, anong mga sinasabi niya? Si Kawayan naman, gumagamit ng pop culture at saka ng mga images sa Baguio kasi doon siya lumaki. Tapos, pinagsasama-sama niya para magkaroon ng panibagong meaning. Ayan. Ikita niyo yung pag-manipulate niya ng images. Usually, makahulugan yung paggamit ng images. Tapos, usually, merong sinasabi. Ito naman si Wartuason, yung mga popular images, hinahaluan niya ng salita. Parang kung ano yung sinasabi ng salita, ano yung kinalaman nun doon sa image. Tapos karaniwan, kritik niya yung sarili niyang paggawa, pag-paint, parang gano'n. Okay. Philippine art scene, pero sumasabog. Sa Andres Barroquinto, makikita natin na kahit na format niya ay parang Japanese, halimbawa. Pero kung paano siya mag-embellish, kung titingnan niyo yung mga damit ng katutubo, kahit na yung barong. Di ba yung paggamit mo ng barong, mas maganda kung mas maraming burda. So titingnan niyo yung embellishments niya dito, parang ganun yung aesthetic. Ito naman yung kay Lyle. LVN movies naman yung kanyang palabas. Ayun, yan. So, basic lang to, basic na survey kung ano yung makikita nyo in the contemporary art scene. Yung kay Lyle, mga LVN pictures, tapos kung saan yung mga pag-aaway. Sa show to actually ni Eileen at saka ni Chitz sa Lopez Museum dati. So, andito yung mga curators na nag-curate ng show na to. Merong humor at may violence. So, mag-iisip ka ano ba talaga sinasabi niya. Yun. Ito si Santi Bose, isang mas nakatatandang artist na parang si Kawayan. Sa Baguio rin nagpa-practice. Tapos, ganun din yung ginagamit niya, collage ng images. So, from colonial photographs, tapos yung mga contemporary, at saka kung mga local na text, pinagsasama-sama. Okay. Si Benka, ganun din, nag-appropriate ng mga images ng galing sa lumang photos, tapos ginagawa niya yung sariling works. Okay. Ngayon yung studio niya. Ito sa Lopez Museum din. Chitz and Eileen din yung nag-ano. Tapos si Kiri Dalena. Ginamit yung photograph na galing sa archives ng Lopez Museum sa mga nagproprotesta. Kasi kung may nagproprotesta ng martial law, usually kapag may naiiwan, siya yung pinapalo ng batuta. Ang ginagawa nila syempre parang fetal position. So ito yung fetal position ng ginawa niya tao na gawa sa lupa na hindi finire. So nagka-crumble din siya. Tapos ito yung mga natitira sa mga rally-rally, yung mga bato na nagpapatuhan. So ganyan. Tapos ito yung inspired naman nung parang mga barricades sa UP nung panahon ng martial law. So ang art, maraming issues na tinatakal. Halimbawa, pati yung ganitong social realities. Ito kay Agnes Arellano. Ayan. Tapos pati sa mga protest, ginagamit din yung art. Iba't ibang forms. Yun, I think okay na ako. Kung meron kayong questions, please feel free. Mamaya, during the discussion, I'm sure mas marami pang lalabas. Salamat.
Siguro, ang gusto ko lang munang i-end at this point na pag pinag-usapan natin ng aesthetics, the traditional way of thinking about it is that it's the philosophical frame of beauty. But the discourse about or the thinking about aesthetics has moved on very much farther from that. And what I'd like to really emphasize today is that we're talking about the activation of the senses. And when we speak about the senses, we're not just talking about the visual senses. So sige, medyo nagko-code switch ako between Filipino and English. Sige. Saan ako haharap pag magandun? Ano ba? It's not working. Next na lang po. Pwede mo kayo na lang maganda. Yeah. So, ang pagdama. Bilang mga pre-lingual, bago pa tayo matutong magsalita, nakakadama na tayo, no? Of course, wala tayong malinaw na memory tungkol doon, pero mayroon tayong conception of ourselves as fetus or as babies floating in amniotic fluid. No? So basically, what I'm trying to emphasize here is that we know the world through our senses. Next, please. So before we actually know about the world in concrete terms, we explore it through our bodies. And in this case, as a baby, you know about another human being because of the sense of touch. Next, please. Ang bata, di ba, pag hindi niya pa alam kung ano yung iba-ibang lasa, ganun din. Maaring curious pa siya, titikman niya, at ma-activate yung sense na yun. Kung maasim yung nahanap kong picture, mas nakakatawa, pero yun ang nahanap ko eh. Sige. Moving from there, as we begin to more concretely enter into society, natututo tayo ng mga simbolo. So, gaya nito, simbolo siya ng ano? CR. Oo. Tama. Oo. Bukod pa ron. Yes, okay. So, they're symbols because they're not actually what they are. No, they are assigned meaning. In the same way that they're also assigned color. No? There's nothing really natural about the male figure being colored blue or the female figure being colored pink. No? Pero inassign yan. And as we keep getting involved in society, we pick up on those meanings. Eto, anong meaning ay kinakabit niyo pag nakita niyo yung bandila? nationalism, citizenship. Again, there's nothing really natural or automatic about that meaning being attached to this symbol. But it's generally something that you're taught or you learn when you enter into the institutions of society. And those include the family, school, like this, and so on. Next please. Okay, ito medyo bago to. Baka napapansin nyo to pag gumagala kayo sa ating lipunan. Again, how do you know it's Coke apart from the word? The bottle itself, no? It's such a successful symbol that just by the bottle alone you can tell what brand it is. You don't say cola, you say Coke, right? What is it appropriated, however, from the previous symbol system that we were looking at in the previous slide?
Flag.
May narinig akong bulong pero ayaw yung ilabas.
Stars.
Stars, oo. Di ba galing yan sa bandila? Okay. Again, there's nothing distinctly or innately Filipino about this product. In fact, it's an imported product. Previously wholly owned by the Americans, later on by the Mexicans. But they have appropriated the symbol, at least parts of the symbol of the flag, to give it that Filipino flavor. What else has been added on to this touch languages? Yes. Headsets kasi, ano ba yung Coke Studio, alam niyo? So, again, the music and Coke have nothing to do with each other, except that in this particular case, they have used an art form to expand their brand in a sense by saying, we're doing something for the Filipino. In fact, we're doing something for a specific segment of the Filipino who are musicians, di ba? In fact, ganyan yung positioning nitong campaign na to eh. Magpapare sila ng isang medyo mas nakakatanda sa isang bata na musician na. Tapos, pagtatanggalin sila, in fact, ang framing nila, ano ba? Para silang jamming or duel, di ba? Parang ganun. Okay. Sige. Next. So, ano ang kaugnayan ng estetika o yung pagdama sa pakikilahok sa lipunan? Sige po. Yan, sana mag-work yung gagawin natin dito. Dito sa litrato na to, ang gusto ko kasing peg ito for a video that I'd like to show you about how, because art is recognized as a system that is so efficient in teaching or relaying knowledge, the state very heavily relies on it. In this particular case, it's the Third Reich of the German Republic. Pwede pong i-try i-play yung video, pero can I ask you to forward it? When I'll tell you when to stop. So while they're trying to get that going, just as an intro, a German filmmaker called Leni Riefenstahl was the primary documentarist of the Third Reich, and she made several films. No, hindi pa video at the time. So okay, keep going until it gets to.
This one is by popular request.
Until it gets to 10 minutes,
So,
53.
Triumph of the Will and the Cinematic Language of Propaganda.
Triumph of the Will is not a triumph of cinema, but of budget. One of the central arms of attack that Triumph of the Will uses is, in its very essence, its existence as a grandiose, long, expensive, complex production. None of the filmmaking ideas used were new. Putting a camera in the back of a car wasn't new. Tracking shots weren't new. Low-angle shots weren't new. Aerial shots weren't new. The only thing new was scope. Every scene goes on and on for minutes at a time. There are not a few aerial shots, there are hundreds. There is not a camera observing the parade as it passes, there are dozens of cameras embedded in the very fabric of the parade. To the modern viewer, it may seem aimless and shoddily paced, with montages that just go on and on and on long after the point has been made. But that's the point. It is not merely a demonstration of presence, but of volume. The indulgence of it, the conspicuous cost, is as much a message of the film as any other, intended to tell the viewer that the economic might of Nazi Germany is so great that even their propaganda is casually one of the most expensive productions to date. Every visual implication of wealth, strength, and power is made and then repeated and repeated and repeated. Hitler descends from the majesty of the heavens. The old and weathered architecture of Nuremberg is peppered with Nazi icons, tying the new regime to the perceived wealth and stability of ages past. Children gaze in awe on their glorious, humble leader, a man so blessed by the gods that even cats take notice of his passing. The Reich is juxtaposed with churches, with the pastoral calm of the rising sun, with efficiency, with a bounty of food, and, of course, with an endless supply of soldiers. Troops march, and march, and march, and march. The Nazi army does not merely exist, it goes on, and on, and on, and then on a little more after that. Now, there is no arc to the film, because there is no conflict. Look at us. We're amazing. There is no story, there is only message. Oh, it's mostly lies, by the way. Internally, the Nazis were a mess. They had, after all, just assassinated a number of their own high-ranking officers, and the army, which outnumbered the SA and SS, was still very much on the fence about their support for the regime following the death of Hindenburg. Germany was still very much at risk of tipping into a civil war between the Nazis and the Wehrmacht. The whole point of the rally was to make the film, and the whole point of the film was to project an image of an unstoppable, overwhelming, wealthy, happy, fed, and unified Nazi Germany to demoralize opponents and embolden supporters. In fact, there's a message back there that you probably wouldn't even catch, that whole thing about the army. The actual German army, the Wehrmacht, is barely in the film. There's one scene of cavalry being inspected, but that's about it. All the rest of that endless sea of troops are SA and SS troops, which were organs of the Nazi Party, not of the armed forces. It is a conscious exclusion meant to establish a pecking order between the Nazis and the Wehrmacht, to make the potentially disloyal members of the army feel small, overwhelmed, unimportant, and outnumbered. Throughout the film, the odious aspects of the Nazi ideology, the concentration camps, which had already been operating for a year by that point, the political assassinations, the racism, these were all downplayed or absent, left unstated. The message is clear and singular. We are strong and prosperous, and anything we choose to do is justified because it works, and religious imagery is then tapped to consecrate that justification with divine favor.
Apart from the use of film language, no, I'm glad this actually had architecture in it, because that's apparently what you're taking. But I'd like to point out what he was talking about in regard to what gets left out in the telling. No? But the reason I wanted to show this clip is because I think it's a very effective way of showing you how artistic language, in this particular case film, is, because it is recognized as very powerful and efficient, is used to deliver a message. Okay, next slide please. If you were paying attention to one of the things that he said about camera angles, he did talk about Hitler being shot from below, because that presumably gives you the impression that he is bigger than you and he's more powerful than you. And this is a technique that was also used in the very first sauna of President Duterte by the filmmaker Brillante Mendoza, who, of course, in this particular case, brings into the equation his own credibility and validation, dahil nanalo na nga si Brillante Mendoza sa Cannes, nanalo sa Berlin, at kung saan-saan pa. So all of that plays into the meaning-making context. Next, please. Okay. Sabi ni Arturo Escobar, who is a Colombian anthropologist, but he's working out of America, truth claims are related to practices and symbols that produce and regulate social life. Ano ibig sabihin? Nakapaloob dun sa mga simbolo at sa mga gawain nating pang-araw-araw yung pagkakaintindi natin sa katotohanan. Next, please. only have a few more slides. Just to show you, for instance, what do you see here in this painting? Yeah, what does the hand, it's, ano yun? Oh, it's a clenched fist, yeah, for sure. Yun nga yung ano niya, kumbaga parang inaasahan niyang sabihin, no? At maintindihan na kapangyarihan yung pinag-uusapan. Ang gusto ko lang sabihin, kaya ako sinabing shifting meaning dito, this is a work by Marco Stignani, and I actually found it on an auction site. Which means, in a way, nanineuter yung gusto niyang sabihin kasi nakapaload na siya sa diskurso ng merkado. Kung gusto niya maging critical o resistant, medyo nalulusaw yun. Depende kung saan mo tinitingnan o nakukuha kung saan ka nagbabasa. Next please. Ito naman, natin na to. Alam ko kung nagagawi kayo sa EDSA eh. Kasi ito kailangan ko daan pag umuwi ako mula UP. Again, it was just curious to me how the fist bump is becoming this ubiquitous symbol. And in this particular case, it's come onto a huge billboard. In fact, there are two of them, apparently, for a rather prominent streetwear brand. So, what does that got to do with urban street style? So, ina-adapt nila yung ganong, kumbaga, posture, yung astig. Walang kinakatakutan, basta banat ng banat sa ganitong branding na kanilang sinusubukang ibenta, no, upon the public. And of course here in this case there's a collusion between local and foreign context because Zoo York, as far as I know, is not actually a Filipino brand. And yet, when an image like that is read here, then it registers rather differently than if it were being read somewhere else, where we don't see the fist bump every single day of our lives recently. No? Next, please. Eto, nakita nila ta? Pinaghirapan ko hanapin itong image na to. Again, bakit nyo sa tingin na interest ako dito?
Nanlaban.
Oo, saan nyo nakikita yung mga phrase na yan? In regard to the anti-drug campaign, di ba? Nanlaban, patay. Pero in this case, medyo gineprox, depox. Anyway, as a teacher who's dealing with visual literacy, I find it both interesting and disturbing at the same time. How we're able to look at life so lightly, that we can basically take something that's happening to human life and translate it in the process of trying to sell a brand that kills off another life form, which obviously they think of as lower than the human. But that doesn't say much for the human either. No? Okay. So, I guess what I'm trying to get at is that yung aesthetic sense natin nandun na yun sa umpisa pa lang habang pinanganak pa lang tayo. Tapos we progressively learn to read as we engage with society, with other people. But it's something that needs to be sharpened. And not subjected to very easy formulations about meaning and truth. Next, please. I think I have about four or five more slides, but I'll go through them quickly. I was also asked to talk about the contemporary art scene, but I know that Ricky showed you quite a few images already. I'm glad at least that kind of covers some of this. But what I did, the reason I wanted to bring up these particular images is because I wanted to raise the issue of how the art world, particularly the contemporary art world at the moment, is so mired in the discourse of the market. and in the idea of branding. So in this case, which is a scene from this year's art fair, I think, you have people who are basically busy just taking shots of themselves as they are reflected upon the artwork. No? And if you spend enough time in the art fair, that was basically what people were doing. They were hardly looking at the work. They were just very busy trying to get images of themselves so they could upload it and show other people that they were looking. Next, please. But there are some artists, I wouldn't say all, because it's a really, really broad field, mahirap mangman lahat. There are some artists who take a critical position in regard to how art is positioned in the market. In this particular case, this and the next slide is are works by Stephanie Sihupo, who is a Filipino-American artist. She works out of California. I'm not sure if this is the work she did for San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, but this one is called Free Text. Hindi ko alam kung nakakakita kayo ng ganyan, di ba? Yung pinipilas. Pag nahanap kayo ng teacher-hand, di ba? May mga ganyan na kukunin yung telephone. So, ginamit na yan, yung parehong lengguwahe na yan. Pwede kang pumilas, tapos nandun yung URL nung piece of literature, which she thinks is pertinent within this discussion or conversation about the market, globalization, and how that has taken over every single aspect of our lives. Everything is monetized, including art. Next, please. So these are some of the list that comes out of that work. So na nakaprint out na yung pinamimigay. So it's a way of getting back at the market. Where some people are not able to access the knowledge, then you create the way so that they can find the avenues for it. Next, please. Next po. Parang may dalawa pa. Yan. Okay. And I want to finish with this and the next slide. There are images by Steve Terona, who is a photographer, who has taken a very strong fascination with the former First Lady. So dito, makikita nyo si Imelda herself in front of several impersonators, no, right? And they're pretty much having the time of their lives playing around and basically playing up the idea of the excesses of Imelda as a personality in front of what structure? Okay, and what has Imelda got to do with the CCP? Yeah, she was very much involved in putting it up. And in fact, she was known, continues to be known as the patroness of the arts. No? So the series is meant supposedly to be a parody, but it is not received as parody by Imelda Marcos. In fact, she launched a line of, I don't know if it was shoes or clothing, and she used these images. So she just plays around. She lives off the publicity. Next, please. And this is the last one. So again, it's an image of all the gilded excesses that have been associated with this administration. Kita nyo naman, maski yung aso, kumikinang ang mga ngipin, di ba? Pero at the same time, meron kang sense na hindi siya completely, it's not a picture of complete harmony with the universe because there's a painting that's hanging askew. No? Okay, so basically, I guess I wanted to leave you with the idea that bilang mga nagbabasa at manonood, nasa atin din yung responsibility na magbasa critically, hindi lang basta tanggap ng tanggap. Na nasa atin yung kakayanan ding tumingin beyond the surface, pwedeng tumingin ng context. Ngayon, di ba, you Google like anything if you don't understand something that you've come upon. But the burden is also on the artist, because if the language that they're presenting is not actually accomplishing what they were trying to do, which in this case was to deliver parody, then there must be something wrong. or something else that they could be doing. Yun lang po. I'll take questions after.
For inviting us here. Remember that there are two ways for me as an artist and a curator to look at histories and the studies. I come from the ground practice, meaning that's why I created the Back to Square platform. I'll start with this. Maganda rin yung nakita yung mga symbols at pagbasa ng mga simbolo. Para sa inyo ba, pag nakakita kayo ng X, anong mo sabihin nito? Ha? Again?
The spot.
Ha? Wrong, mali. Others? Nakaraan. Nakaraan daw. May hukot doon, nakaraan. X. Ha? Ano pa? Ha? Okay, treasure. Very good. And others? Ha? X marks the spot. Pwede rin hybrid, X-Men, di ba? Pwede rin mga tropa. Anyways, as we understand images, let me share this. Babala. Kinuha ko. Parang may gimmick ng konti. Views and opinions na sasabihin ko may not be the same views and opinions that is of institution or these scholars. Meaning, X yan, X. I will explain further. Ano ba yung nakikita niyo dito? Very good. Meron ba nag-golf dito? Ha? A little understanding of golf? Di ba golf eh? Parang ano eh. Parang session yan eh. Golf. On our way here kasi medyo naliligaw kami, we were asked by Waze to pass through Southwoods and I saw a cabin and then of course meron dun parang grill. Alam niyo ba kung ano ibig sabihin ng bogey? Bogey, pwede rin. Pero in terms of golf, iba rin yun. Anyways, I will continue. Buti na lang, hindi kami nag-usap ni Eileen. She talked about history and pointed out to Hitler as part of history. And then she pointed out images also that reference music. And what's its connection to golf? 4. Meron bang may alam ng meaning ng 4? Wala, it's abstract. I believe by the stares at the blankness of this wall, feeling ko, my gosh, this is so abstract. In the same way, art is also viewed to be this way. Something up there that has to be placed on the ground. That's why Back to Square One was created. Remember, it's abstract. But again, if 4 was created, I will share to you how many of you are into music. Wow, music. Ako, patay kayo dito. Have you ever heard of a descending minor third interval? Oh my gosh. What are you talking about, di ba? I thought we invited you because of arts, right? A descending minor third interval. And I'm talking about golf, I'm talking about all sorts of stuff which is all over. Again, it's abstract. But did you know that there was a Colonel Boogie that created a musical thing during the World War II, which was influenced with the descending minor thirds. They called it 4. Pag may pumapalo sa golf, sinasabi nila 4. Sabi ko kaya, ba't hindi kaya 5 or 6, 7, kaya 4? Nagugulat din ako, 4 sila ng 4. But it was a military term which says for, before. So, if you were to think about that time during the war, na buong buhay nyo naririnig nilang yung bala. Ako, this is a theory now. Bala. And you always hear, boom! Diba? Kung may pumipito, gano'n yun. And somebody created a music that reference for, before, which is connected to golf, which is connected to history. And it's called the Colonel Boogie thing, which yung tanan, tanan, tan, tan, tanan. So are you familiar with it, right? Now it's normally played in bands, right? Because it was supposed to encourage the individuals or the group that was, siyempre, distress na sila, si Hitler kalaban nila eh. Teka, hintayin nyo kung paano ako pupunta sa arts, ha? So just wait, there's more. Wait. Imagine nyo, yung pinipito nila yun, may kadekit sa history na nilalagay na again, this may not be the views. In the context of study, it was known in World War II that was associated as a blue comedy, which was a conversation with Hitler. Hitler has only got one ball. They were singing it in tunes during that time because, syempre, ang lakas ng kalaban nila eh. So they were doing it in such a way to also promote propaganda. Imagine niyo, golf, ang layo ng usapan. Nagpunta na tayo sa history, nagpunta na kay Hitler. And then as I continued to work on this, of course, we were already talking about musical theories in the same way art has theories behind it. In the same way, we develop all of these things as we go back to the topic of golf, and it becomes an X. The golfer, you have players like golfer. If you break down golf, syempre, this is strange, abstract. You have a golfer, one that is part of the game, and the clubs, tools for the game, and you have the space, and of course you have ethics, which is very important. I believe that should be discussed as well in the practice of arts. And as you continue to move to this direction of 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 equals X. X, you said, is a mistake. X is a multiplier. X is a treasure or a hybrid. And I will continue with this back to square one, which is a 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 equals 1. The square is a number multiplied by itself, you get the root. Root, meaning theories and practice, most often in arts, tag of war yan, pupukan yan. In anything you do, theories and practice, pupukan yan. Now 1x becomes a conduit to be able to bring together. This is based on artistic practice. To be able to bring together theory is abstract practice. And practice is applied theory. Remember that if you're moving into arts, madaming scope. Huwag lang sabihin natin, arts. So arts. Everybody calls everything arts, right? So arts, if you look and research on what is in the internet, nor the library, nor books, these are some of what you will be seeing. A diverse range of human activities na creating visuals, music, performance. Meron din, tinanggal ko yung mga sumulat, kung sino yung sumulat, kung asan yung source. Hanapin nyo na lang. Pero hindi ko kiniklaim, hanapin nyo na lang. Because there's a reason for it. Expressing author's imaginative or technical skills, a visual object or experience consciously created through an expression skill or imagination. Dito niya, imagine there. No, there. Okay, so so imagining nyo, all of these things which is described, a description of what is about art, feels like it's an outlet, right? Siyempre, outlet ko to, express ko to. Hindi pwede yan kasi parang for human expression, right? But 1X for me is, when I was reading this, doesn't sit well with me because it was a description of the practice as a practitioner. So let me share to you what I wrote with regards to what art for me is. A coded form of practice that features skills in creating visual, auditory, and performance in dialogue with materials and space. You may agree or disagree. But again, for me it's coded. Why is it coded? Because outside box ka nga. This is a space that you can represent yourself as yourself. Siyempre, yung DNA mo yan. And the only way it can stand as art, there are two kinds, there are two types, the commercial arts and the visual arts practice. I graduated from both, UST and UP. So, I've been studying that path. So, imagine this. All of the things that I've been reading is a description of art. So, it's an outlet. So, ang gulo. Naguguluhan ako. Ako yun eh. And if I were to share this, it's a coded form of practice. So, what the historians are doing, or the archivists, are decoding it based on historical facts. And what the museum does is to put together in order, as a curator, things, right? So they're decoding things. They are decoding things. That's how I see it. So, the easiest way for me, if I may share, kaya nga 1X, simple lang. So, madaling memory recall, 1X. What I may say may be BS or not BS, right? It may be a 1X for you as an artist in the future, as an educator, as a historian, as a curator, as an individual, or it can be a X for you. That's why I call it 1X. Now, an easier platform for me to define art would have been art as action, reaction, transformation, and of course, the last one would have been space. Importante ito rin dulo. Because action, reaction, transformation calls for an active dialogue with whatever you're doing. But the downside would have been, is this is also an outlet. The history or what is recorded has recorded this as an outlet. But the 1x, if you follow this equation, the outlet also becomes a inlet. Most often, an individual is taken out of an equation. What? Ano ba ang contribution ng artist? Ang gulo lang yan eh. Wala yung contribution sa community. Nanggugulo lang yan. But an inlet is a channel between two opposing mass that is also giving flow to a particular area. Meaning, hindi ko naman gusto lahat ng mundo. Pero a community may be influenced by your practice. It's not just an outward expression kasi anybody, a diverse range of human activities, remember, but if you answer my answer in the test paper, mali kayo. X na yung sagot nyo. Wala yan eh. Wala sa libro. Wala sa libro. It's not in the books. But you may be sharing something that may help you in the future. I will continue. Meaning, contemporary. You talked about contemporary. Hirapan din ako dyan. Pero, sige, I kind of click something also that is part of, you can research, Google, and go to the library. Living or occurring at the same time. Belonging to or occurring in the same present. And then, recent art, they say. Recent art, whatever, contemporary art is recent art. But for me, art has a meaning, has a philosophy behind it, which is what I said. So, if I share to you today, as a contemporary artist, that is my philosophy of art, it should stand true. Right? It should stand true. In an edu platform. Let me continue. Click please. 1x, an art platform. Actually, this is an extensive art platform. We were both invited in another talk in UP talking about performance art practice 101. So madami yan. I divided it into 4 areas. Arts, which is the arts. Action, reaction, transformation of space. Platform design, a platform design that acts as a conduit to bring to ground what is abstract theories and practice in areas of art. Medyo nahihirapan kayo pag-isipan to, pero siguro I will shift it into an example of sino dito may social media? Instagram. Hindi ba nag-aaway-aaway na kayo? On expression? Freedom of expression? Because there's no ethics behind it. Now, if they say it's a part of expression, then everybody's an artist. How many of you use cell phones to take photos? So, ibig sabihin in a contemporary field, you're all new media artists. Because you're using the medium. Right? Imagine nyo to, just because there is no defining laws or regulation that governs art and how materials reference art, ang gulo ng art. Now, if you are, for example, you're designing a computer system, hindi mo naman kasalanan yung gawa ng iba eh. Pinasok nila, sinira nila, sinabit ka pa. So your ability to go beyond the givens, remember Arta, the givens is regulated already by institution. by fault of others. Di na makagalaw eh. Doon ka na eh, sakal. Pero hindi mo naman ginawa yun eh. So I felt one of the things that is key is ethics behind art practice, which I think the institution should be including in their curriculum or somewhere. A suggestion. A suggestion. Remember, you can X me out after. That's fine with me. Now, another point that I wanted to share is if the Damian, but one area of the 4 platforms would have been please. Awareness. Please again, please. Now, in the Awareness 1X platform, you have the first one would be a sense of observation, which Professor Eileen already shared. Just go back to observation. Remember, observation, if you are educators, again, my views may not be the opinion of the institution or because it's based on practice. If you are teaching art for me, observation is a key note, which is in the platform of awareness. But if you're an educator, based on a Bloom's taxonomy, I don't know if you're familiar, maybe some of you are familiar with it. The base ground is not that. But those are for the faculty and the educators. The base ground is not observation or awareness. So I will move further. I just a keynote for this observation. Now, with regards to observation, you have the materials, which are documented files, which can be a path that you take to create awareness. Now, I believe, based on your phases, this is an awareness phase of what art is and where you wanted to go. I remember a time when I wanted to study arts. Ayaw ng magulang ko. Sabi niya, wala daw pupuntahan dyan. Starving artist ka dyan. So, I had a 50-50 option, so I had to say, sige, punta na ako sa UST. I'll do advertising commercial arts first. Just to please my folks. Of course, they're the founders. Until I pushed them that I really wanted to go into the arts. After finishing the UST, I moved into UP majoring in painting. But syempre, I had to convince them na mura lang doon. University state scholar ka pa. Now this is another thing that you have to know. It was very hard for me, and that's why it's a 1X. Very hard for me to enter an edu system based on written stuff because I didn't know it before. But now I know that I have been disabled by dyslexia. I'm dyslexic. So even if I thought I answered it this way, medyo baliktad. But during the earlier times, people are so careful sharing this sickness. Why? Because sabihin nila, bobo mo naman, di ka makabasa, di ka makasulat, di ka makaganito. So I had to devise a way to teach myself, plus education, how to understand history. Like for example, music, go back to music. I studied the formal lessons of music. Di ko mahuli yung teacher ko kasi nasa grid eh. So baliktad. But there was a way of the Japanese in their times which was called Suzuki method, which they started from the sound, copying it, going back tracking. So my attempt of the 1X was to develop the other senses, to heighten senses. Imagine, there is only one sense that is being activated. Ray Charles was blind. He knew when he touched his foot what note it was. So it was a heightened senses. An individual has all of these senses to activate in the field of art. That's why madami yan. Sinabi ko lang yung materials. One is materials rooted. What is archived, what is written, what is all of this. But again, you go down to practice. Because there is such a thing as written, and there is also another thing as oral history, which is unmarked or unrecorded. Right? So, anyways, sino ba yung mga pingano? Oh, blank na. So anyways, I will leave you at that. And then I will share to you another story. When I graduated from 2 universities, siyempre, graduate na ako. Sabi ko, wow, happy ako. I can tell my folks that I'm a graduate of 2 universities. I'm also a Lasallista. So, I'm a graduate of 2 universities. Sabi ko. And then I went to, gusto ko, syempre, independent platform. Punta ako sa government. Kuha ako ng personal tax account number. Kasi personal tax. Wow. Tapos sabi ko sa akin oh, so what do you do? I'm an artist. Siyempre, artist, yapang ko eh. Tinignan ba naman ako ng do you have any institution or anything to back you up as an artist? And what kind of art? Independent. Siyempre, one. Back to square one eh. Sabi ko, wala ka bang ID ng kung ang kansino man or para lang malaman namin kung saan ka galing? Sabi ko graduate na nga ako ng dalawang parang hindi pa rin pala pwede. So I had to show the Art Association of the Philippines ID, which backed me up, but it didn't back me up as an individual. I backed them up, validating their practice, or that they exist. But what about your existence as an independent artist? You should think about it, because this is an outside box platform. This is a beautiful platform, if not violated. And then you have to understand whether you're moving into a commercial arts platform, which has a different regulation, and if you really wanted to become an artist. I come from that practice, being an artist. Salamat po.